Doubling the value of a self-storage facility. Some might think it's luck, but not when you do it twice. It's not a coincidence. It's strategic, and it's about systems and processes. We're gonna go over exactly that in this here video. The property we're talking about today is in Lake Placid, Florida. This is very close to our other property we doubled the value in and sold. We sold them as a package deal in Sebring, Florida. And it made sense to purchase this one, not only because it was a great deal and great numbers, but obviously it was very close to our Sebring location. And so we can use economies of scale, meaning we can use our manager that's in Sebring to also run our facility in Lake Placid and reduce costs for both properties. This property was also purchased or found via direct mail. So we were mailing to the same gentleman for a year. So we bought this property a year after the Sebring purchase. And so for a year, he's been getting mail from us. Originally, the mail was coming from Vault Ventures, my investment company. But as we bought Sebring, we turned it into the mail coming from All Steel Storage. And so when we actually did that, probably early 2021, we changed the branding on the mail piece because our signage was up and we just wanted to have more brand awareness. And so the seller, when he got the mail piece and he was ready to sell. So the good thing about mail is just a lot of times they keep it and it's just, you got to hit them at the right time. It's all time and circumstance. So this guy got this mail piece. He knew we were a real buyer because he would drive by on Highway 27 and see our signage that said All Steel Storage. So he's like, I'm very familiar with these guys. They're right there. I see what has changed over in the past, year roughly. And so he called us when he got our next letter. In our letters, we kind of tell a story of like what we've been doing, what we're trying to accomplish. And it's almost like a newsletter to the sellers. And so essentially he had an initial phone call with us. We went out, looked at the property, and he was just looking to retire. And so his motivation just want to retire. He doesn't want to do anything with the property. He's been managing the property himself. So true mom and pop owner. He's out there checking people in, handling everything pretty much A to Z himself. He did have one worker that was kind of living in the property per se. And so essentially we always obviously try to get owner financing on these types of deals. Pretty much always going to offer, seller financing. He owned it free and clear. And so, that was our first attempt, but he didn't want to do anything with that. He wanted to travel. He didn't want to worry about payments. He wanted all his capital. So we just simply negotiated back and forth on numbers, and the pricing we got was actually very good, even though the income wasn't that great. And that was because he was utilizing many of the units himself and obviously not paying himself any kind of income for that space that he was occupying. Also had many family members in there as well who were also either paying a very little rate or the rate was free. He wasn't capitalizing on those units. So we saw that and he identified which ones were which and said, we made a deal that they would either be out or agree to pay starting when we took over. So essentially on this deal, we negotiated for a price of $990,000 for 24,000 square feet. So it's about $40 a square foot, which is about half the cost if you were gonna buy land and build a new property. So about half of replacement cost, which is a great deal. The property was in that bad condition. There was a lot of trees hanging over the roofs. The roofs were a little rough, needed to get redone. There was a lot of banged up doors and units, and that was pretty much it. There wasn't really a lot of add value on this property besides the fact of getting all the people who weren't paying in the seller's units empty and getting them released, and then the property up to market. So the rents were a little bit low also, but that was pretty much the add value. And so it wasn't tremendous amount of add value, but for us, being that it was so close to our other facility, it made sense. We can save some costs there. So anytime you can buy multiple properties next to each other, you get the economies of scale and you save on expenses. So being that we couldn't get seller financing on this deal, we bought it with a local bank, a local credit union. They financed us 70% loan to value. And so the other remaining 30% down and the renovation costs, we raised that capital from limited partners. Limited partners are folks who invest capital into deals. They don't really handle the day-to-day. They're pretty much just passive investors. They passively invest in the deal and they get a return. In this deal, we did a 8% pref. A pref payment means that they were getting 8% paid out, either monthly, quarterly is typical. On this one, we paid out monthly, because it was already had an income stream. So we paid out each month 8% annualized. And so every single month, an investor got a check. And then they got also 30% equity into the deal. Owners, the general partners, us who run the deal and manage the deal, got 70% ownership of that property. So after takeover of this property, we completed our add value, took care of the roofs, cutting the trees down, make it more visible to see, changed the signage, added our access control systems, our software software, so that way the property could be more automated. People can book online, not ever having to meet somebody at the property. And we just simply automate the facility. We have our on-call by appointment manager from our Sebring location, also kind of handling both properties, and fix some doors and the gutters, and that was pretty much it. And just ran the property for about a year and a half, and we sold it as a package with our Sebring location, and got more than double on the property. So we bought it for $990. We sold it for $1,885,000. Great deal for us, a great deal for our limited partner investor. And let's go through the numbers. All right, so this is the property here. This is the aerial view of the property after we already coated the roofs with this coating stuff. I forget what it's called, but it's like a 10-year warranty on metal roofs. And so there's some rust on the roofs, and we put this sealant with Miller Roofing Systems. They put on the metal roofs to make sure it lasts for another 10 years. And we fixed the gutters. The property was very clean, nice property. You see here, the doors, looked good. Color was good. There's no really problems except individual doors had some issues, but everything was pretty easy on this property. As you see on this aerial view, there's no real expansion. It's literally built out completely, and there's no room for expansion. We did try to buy this property to the right in this photo, but the seller wasn't selling. That was our only kind of option to maybe see if we can expand, but there's really no expansion opportunity. As you see, these trees were all overhanging, so we cut those back. We had to do it twice and just cut those back so it doesn't hang over the roof and damage the roof in the future. But going into the numbers, we purchased this property in August of 2021. Again, over 24,000 net rentable square feet. The gross income when we bought it was just over $7,500 per month. Economic occupancy was 75%. Physical occupancy was 80%, and the purchase price was $990. In a year and a half, by the time we sold it, we added $10,000 roughly to the gross income. So the gross income was increased by $10,000 per month. And then the economic occupancy was about 89%. Again, that's meaning that the street rate, so it's about 10% less than the street rate everybody was paying. The physical occupancy was 94%, and that was able to get us a sales price of more than double what we bought it for in just a year and a half. So here's the HUD statement that we bought this property. This is a $990 purchase price. We got the loan here from a credit union for roughly $700,000, that's 70% loan to value. We had to come out of pocket $330,000. So at $330,000, we raised that capital plus cost of renovations. So that was $500,000 total. So we raised $500,000 total for this deal. And so we sold it for $1,885,000. We had a closing cost it was $23,000. Tax prorations, rent prorations on this deal. Commissions, we paid 2% commission. And then we didn't take an acquisition fee on this property. We took a disposition fee. And so it was a 2% disposition fee that came to us, the general partners. The mortgage payoff was $661,000 when we sold the property. And then the investor getting their return back of $500,000. They got a deferred 8%. That was just the time period between February 4th and February 28th, where they got the additional interest because every month they were getting an interest payment to them. So the total profit on the deal for the group between the limited partners and the general partners, in total, we made just over $600,000 on this property. So the limited partner, the LP, got a 30% piece of that $619, and I got $185. The general partners split a 70% equity of the profit, got $433,000 profit. And so based on the initial investment date of August 4th and the sale date of February 28th, we owned this property for 574 days to make that $619,000. Our investor, our limited partners on this deal, got an 8% pref. So during that period of time, we owned it for 17 months. They got 17 months of payments, which totaled $56,000, just over $56,000. The deferred 8% return is, again, that February 4th to the 28th. That's how much they were owed. And then their profit split, we split what was in the bank based on our equity percentages. And their total return was $274,000 on the $500,000 they invested. So in this time period, they made almost a 55% return on investment. So they invested $500, they got back their $500 initial investment and an additional $274,000 and change. When you base it on the IRR, which is the time of the property, that's why we have this 1.57 years here, that means they made, based on time, 34.95 IRR on this deal. So a great deal, not only for our limited partners, but also for us as well. And it made sense for us to sell it because there really wasn't that much additional add value on this property. You can't expand. You can only incrementally increase the rents here and there. The supply index was higher in this area because the population's so small in this little town. And so there wasn't really a lot of add value left for us. So it made sense to sell this property along with the Sebring property and move on and invest in more deals. Go down in the description and click the link to our investor portal where you can register to see future opportunities like these.